hard when I start the stream to do this. And as you might have guessed, I'm doing this because, or I'm doing delayed version because I had a hard time actually thinking of anything for this hard one. Anyway, so the hard one is find the original type string part 2. I think the part 1 was yesterday, or the last daily question. And that was supposed to be easy, and now this is supposed to be hard, so I think I might have skipped something. I think it was yesterday. Yeah. Part 1 was easy, part 2 was hard. Anyways, Alice is attempting to find a specific string on her computer. However, tends to be clumsy and may press a key too long, resulting in a character being typed multiple times. You're given a word which represents the final output displayed. You're given a positive K. Turn the total number of possible original strings that Alice might have intended to type if the string that she was typing is at least K. And then the answer is going to be mod 10 to the 9th plus 7. So going over some examples, if she typed A, B, B, C, C, D, D, basically doubles of A, B, C, and D. There's 8 characters here, and the string that she intended to type was at least 7. That means that logically she either intended to type all of it. It's always the case that she could have intended to type everything, in which case it'd be 8 long, which is above 7. Or she intended to type only 7 exactly, not 8, so one of the A, B, C, or D had to be kind of an extra, unintended duplicate. And there's going to be 4 possibilities there, so it's to be 5 total. Like she did make any mistakes, and then she made an extra A, B, C, or D. This one, same string, but K is 8. Obviously, she intended to type everything, so there's only one way. And for this one, triple A's, triple B's, she intended to type something that's 3 long. So she could have intended to type, well, one approach would be, to count this would be, she has to type she had to have intended to type the first of each kind of block. So she had to intend to type the first A and the first B. So therefore like of remaining 2 A's and 2 B's, of those remaining ones, one of them has to be something that she intended to type, and the others could be duplicates or not. And if she has to have at least one A or B, I went through that at some point. Ends up being something like what was it? So A, B, B, or K has to be 1. So it's basically she could intend to type all of it, or just a single A, or just a single B, or just an AB, or an A or B. So that ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, how did it end? So the full string would be that, or that, or that, or that, or that, or that. How did I get 8 here? Since I type all of it, duplicate A. Oh, I guess I'm missing A, B, B, B. And I'm missing triple A's and B. So if so it ends up being, if I delete the things that she had to have intended, then it would be that. I think I forgot the doubles. Okay, yeah. So ignoring the first A and the first B, which she had to have intended, the other stuff that she must have wanted, or at least one of them had to have occurred, that would be these 8. And then, so this one, how do I want to try to explain my thought process up to now? Because I think I have something close to an answer, or close to, not close to an answer, have a line of thought that potentially reaches the answer, is how I put it. So I'm going to use my notation for this logic, and it's going to be a little possibly hard to follow. Okay, so I guess my breakdown of this would be 1, kind of remove the first of each letter from string of each kind of the first letter of each kind of streak from string, and decrement k for it as that letter must be part of intended. So for example, if I have something where it's like AAB and K equals 2, then we know that this A had to be intended and this B had to be intended because they were typed at all. And then the 2 that she at minimum intends can be boiled down to a single A that could or could not be intended, and then like all the B's were done. So this A is kind of completely optional if you're thinking of this as the A after you remove the fully intended A, or the assuredly intended A. And therefore this thing would have 2 ways. So either this A is intended and that's one way, or this A is not intended and that's another way. So it's 2 ways. Let's take an example. If it was, let's say A, and I'll say here the single A is left over when K equals 0, and the 2 in parentheses means number of ways. This was something where it's like, let's say 3 A's, or let's say 2 A's, 3 B's, and 4 C's, and K equals 3. Well, again, the first A, the first B, and the first C have to be fully intended. So if I kind of ignore those, I'm left with the second A, the second, third B, and the second, third, and fourth C. And here, K is now reduced to 0. So in this case, this A could or could not be intended. These 2 B's could or could not be intended, and these 3 C's could or could not, like any number of them. So in this case, it's either 1 of 2 A's times 1 of 3 B's times 1 of 4 C's. Okay, I guess 1 is incorrect here. I could either have 0, 1A, I could have 0, 1, or 2B, I could have 0, 1, 2, or 3 C's, and any number of those ways could match with any numbers of ways for the other letters. So there's 2 possibilities for the number of A's, 3 possibilities for the number of B's, and 4 possibilities for the number of C's. It's ends up being 6 times 4 is 24. Just verify that the test case here. So say 2 A's, 3 B's, 4 C's. This should give me 24. Right. Now, if you were to, so that's in general, if you have something where k is 0, the same thing where k is 0, this means that this is solvable directly without much thought, because you just count the number of each letter and you add 1 to it, and that's the number of possibilities for how to actually, well, in theory this is not possible. She couldn't type this and intend to type nothing, because the first A, the first B, the first C is always intended. But let's say it was something, you know, A, B, B, C, 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 D, D, okay, something like that. And here, let's say the minimum is 4, right? So the first A gets removed if we consider things that are just optional. The first B is required, so what we're left with is the second B, the second third C, and the second fourth D, and we're left with k is 0. So the count when k is 0 after you do that first reduction is going to be 1 more than the count of each letter, the frequency of each repetition of the streaks. So like this B means that there's 2 ways I could do that. The 2 C's means there's 3 ways I can do that, 0, 1, or 2 C's, and then 3 D's is going to be 0, 1, or 2 C, or 2 D's, that'd be 3 ways, so that's a total of 18. And just to test case that, so single A, 2 B's, 3 C's, 3 D's, and 4. I multiply this wrong. Oh, whoops, I meant the first A should be, actually, did I edit the wrong one? A, B, B, 3 C's, 4 D's. Okay, it's 18, I was looking at test case. Okay, so yeah, so the simple case would be if after the reduction you get k equals 0, you can multiply the number of ways of each of the remaining letters plus 1, or have like a product of factors where each factor is the frequency of each letter plus 1. Each letter remaining after you reduce the frequency by 1 already. Okay, so something more complicated would be, let's say I have A, B, B, C, 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 D, 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 and let's say k equals 6. So in this instance, there's 9 total letters, and given that there's 4 required letters, the first of each of the streaks, then I can reduce it to be B, C, C, D, D, k equals 2. Removing the first A, first B, first C, first D from the things that she is known to intend. So there's 2 things with these kind of extras that she needs to have, or she need to have intended. She could have intended all remaining 5, but at least 2 of them is intended. So how to count those? So at any given point where you have a string of possible intended things and a minimum number of intended things remaining. If you consider the first streak, so there's one B here, either she intended to do that B, in which case if B is intended, then you can kind of move on to the next CCDD, and the number of intended letters remaining guaranteed would be at least 1. Or if B is not intended, then you can kind of say that that B is duplicate, and you go on to CCDD remaining with k equals 2. Because like, k is the number of things that she is fully intends to do, and if that B is not intended, then the number of letters of the remaining stuff that she fully intends is still the same amount as before. Now, moving from this, if I have CDD k equals 1, doing the same kind of process. If C is fully intended, if this C is fully intended, then I can get CDD k equals 0, which is to say that I know that, or if she fully intends this C, then the other stuff is kind of maybe intended, maybe not intended. But this thing goes back to k equals 0. When you have k equals 0, then you can consider just counting it at that point. So there's like this 2 times 3 based on the counting principle stuff before. Like it could be 2 ways to consider whether or not she wanted the C, like 0, 1 C that she wanted, and then 3 ways for the D's, 0, 1, or 2 D's. Alternatively, if she didn't intend to write the C's, then if this C was not intended, then this C is not intended because she's holding down the button, and these C's are kind of unintended duplicates. In which case, you go down to the D's, and she still has one intended letter from those. And then that boils down to, well, if you have this kind of base case kind of deal where if there's only one streak left and k is some number, then kind of reduce the streak by that amount of numbers, and like the first D has to be intended, right? So second D is possibly unattended or possibly not intended. So that's going to be 2 ways there. Yeah. And then going on to the second one. If the B is not intended, then you're dealing with CCDD k equals 2. And so if the first C is intended, then you're left with CDD k equals 1. And that could go to DD k equals 0, in which case there's 3 ways of doing that, or it could go to DD k equals 1, where that other C is not intended. This ends up being same thing here, 2 ways. Alternatively, if this C is not intended, then the second C is not intended, then you just go to your D's, where you still have 2 things fully intended. And this is 1. So the sum of the items here are going to be 1, 2, 3, 2, 6. So that should be 14. So go ahead and check that out. was the first one? Yeah. K equals 6. A, B, B, C, C, D. Okay. Could be wrong about this. Been known to make mistakes plenty of times. Okay, so that, yeah, it's 14. So what this boils down to, all right, let me go through like one more kind of example just to clarify things in my head. Let's say it's 3 A's, 2 B's, and 2 C's. Let's say 3 A's, 2 B's, 3 C's, and 2 D's. And K has to be at least 4. Let's say K is 7 here. So again, the first A is intended, then you're left with 2 A's. Actually, I'm going to start with the reduction. The reduction of the first of each letter is going to be AA, B, C, C, D. And at least 3 of these are intended, because the first A, first B, first C, first D counts as 4 things. And from there, if the first A is intended, then you can move to A, B, C, C, D, where K is 2. Alternatively, if the first A is not intended, then you can move to, well, then that means also the second A is not intended. So you can move to the B, C, C, D, K is 3. And then here again, if the first A is intended, then you can move to B, C, C, D, K equals 1. And if the first A is not intended, then you can also move to B, C, C, D, where K remains 2. Here, if the first B is intended, then you can move to C, C, D, K equals 0. And that boils down to be 3 times 2 A's, which is 6. That's going to be, I put the parentheses around stuff that's going to increment the answer by that count. And then alternatively, if the B is not intended, then it's going to go down to CCD where K equals 1. And then if the first C is intended, then CD K equals 0, which counting principles could be 2 times 2 is 4. And if the first C is not intended, then the second C is not intended, so you would move down to D where K equals 1. And that's only one way. If any time you have K matching the length of the string that's remaining, that means all the letters have to be intended, and there's one way of doing that. Alright, so here, 2 things intended here. Let's say the first B is intended, so CCDK equals 1, and then this is just going to be the same thing as this thing right here, CCDK equals 1, so it's 5. Same as above. And then alternatively, if the B was intended, then it would be CCDK equals 2. Here C, first C is intended, so CD K equals 1. Which should boil down to If the first C was intended, then this dk equals 0, which is 2. Or if the first C was not intended, then dk equals 1, which is 1. Alternatively, if the first C was not intended, then the second C is not intended, and I have dk equals 2. And there's 0 ways of doing this. You can't have two things. You can't have intended two things where the length of the string is less than 2. So looks like the sum of this should be 1, 2, 3, 3, 10, 19. Let's see, 3 A's, 2 B's, 3 C's, 4 D's, or 2 D's, and 7. Hopefully it's 19. Oh boy. It is definitely not 19. Oh wait. Did I not do this bottom part? A is intended. A is not intended. Okay, I guess I didn't do this bottom part. So if the A is not intended, then then the second A is also not intended. So you're left with 3 things here. Yeah, and then let's say the first B is intended, so we have CCDK equals 2. And otherwise, okay. So if the first B is intended, then you're left with that. If the first B is not intended, then you're left with CCDK equals 3. This is one way. CCDK equals 2. This could be CDK equals 1. And I think I did that case here, and that's like 3. Alternatively, it could be dk equals 2, which is 0. I guess this is all part of this branch here. There's a total of 3. Okay, so summing that up, that's 4, 4, 7, 12, 22, 23. Okay. Did I do this wrong? This is an extra set of counts, but this is branch is 3. Okay, and then question is, can I convert this to some sort of algorithm that also is going to run within quick speed? Does look like feels like a DP program, dynamic program deal. Also looks like some sort of cache for some of the answers might be useful because I get into the same state, or I get into the same branch of remaining letters and K. guess I can consider that as a index and a k. Get into those same spots multiple times. I wonder. Yeah, so that's the reason I started this stream the time I did, is because I think this is a pretty reasonable way of calculating things. There's some structure here of calculation that seems like it might be codable. That's just not total random crap. Where I iterate over indices of where I start at after the initial reduction of the first letter of each streak. After that initial reduction, for each letter that I'm at, I either treat that letter as intended, in which case I go on to the next index, decrement k by 1, or if it's unintended, then I skip over that streak completely and keep k the same. Whenever k decremented down to 0, I can do some sort of calculation at that point and kind of end the branch. Or when k is decremented down to, so if k is decremented down to 0 and there's still letters remaining, then I do some sort of calculation based on the counting principle. If k doesn't decrement down to 0 but just to the length of the string remaining, then it's just 1. Or if k somehow decrements down to below, why would it ever decrement to below the string length? Yeah, yes, it's possible, yeah. So if k is somehow longer than the string length, because maybe I skipped over a streak, that skipping over the streak of letters made the string shorter than the string length shorter than k, then it becomes 0. Like if there's the remaining letters D and there's k is 2, then 0 ways of doing that. So anyways, so there's some certain terminal points where I just will calculate the answer from, and k is decremented at each index, or k is decremented by 1 going to the next index, or k is not decremented at all going to the next index, or going up the number of indices for the current streak, the frequency of the current streak. It feels like it might be a 2D array or a matrix where you have the index as one axis and k is another axis. The only issue there is if it's the index by k, actually is not cool. The indices is, if I have a matrix that's the size of this 5 times 10 to the 5th times 2000, that's like a billion or more. It ends up being too big. So if it's just 2000 by 2000, then it should be fine. So I'm trying to think of some way of not doing indices. not having a matrix of indices by k. I think that's just too big. In theory, k is the number of uniques is the maximum number of uniques in your word, because each streak of letters in your word, where like a streak of letters might be the A streak and the B streak, or the A, B, C, and D streak here. Each streak of letter, the first of that letter must be a part of k. So there can be only at most like 2,000 streaks. And if there's 2,000 streaks and if there is 2,000 streaks, then yeah. What am I trying to say there? So if I just do, can I do it based on streaks? Like somehow make it a 2D matrix where I'm dealing with the streak A, the streak B, the streak C, the streak D, so there's 4 streaks by some number of k's. 4 streaks by some number of k's. More streaks by some number of k's. So does that work? Not with the current way I'm doing it. So current way I'm doing it. A, B, C, C, D. Case 3. I mean, I could say that the next 3 are all intended, and these 3 are not intended. Or I can say this A is intended, and then one of these, or 2 of these is intended. I guess say this one is intended, then 2 of these are intended actually. And say none of these is intended, and 3 of these are intended. So decrement this thing, increment this. There has to be 3 there, or decrement by 1 k. 1 a is intended, k is decrement by 1. 2 a's is intended, k is decrement by 2. One a is intended, k is decremented by 1. That branch ends up being a total of 6. No, that branch ends up being 6, 4, 1 plus another 2. So 1a is intended for 1a is intended, or 2a is intended. So I would be doing k equals 3, k equals 2, or k equals 1 at this point here. K equals 3, k equals 2, or k equals 1. So that's k equals 2, that's k equals 1, that's k equals 3. So would I just increment 1 to each of those? 1, 1, 1. Why is it? I can't have k equals 0 because there's not enough a's. And so decrement by 0, 1, 2. At that point there's 1b. So if there's 1b, then I can either decrement it by 1 or 0. So k equals 3. That goes to CCD. K equals 2. Or CCD k equals 3. So maybe I increment it by 1 for each of those. Or increment those states by 1. And then k equals 2. I go to either CCD k equals 1. So what am I thinking of right now? So it's like A. So what are the states I'm thinking of? Thinking of the initial state, which is A, B, C, C, D, k equals 3. That transitions to a state that is to 3 states. So because there's 1, 2, or 0 the A's that were intended. It was 0 the A's intended, that's B, C, C, D, k equals 3. If one of the A's was intended, let's transition to B, C, C, D. Or, yeah, k equals 2. Or B, C, C, D, k equals 1 if both A's were intended. And then the B, C, C, D, k equals 3, transition to C, C, D. Either k equals 3 if the B was intended, or C, C, D, k equals 2 if the B was intended. And then the B, C, C, D, k equals 2 state transitions to C, C, D, k equals 1, or C, C, D, k equals 2. And then the BCC k equals 1 transition to CCD k equals 0, or CCD k equals 1. I wonder if I can, because some of these are going to be duplicates, so maybe there's a count of one here, count of 1 here, count of 1 here, count of 1 here. So this thing transitions to these two, and they would each have count of 1. And then CCD transitions to this one, but this one's duplicate of this one. So maybe that bumps it to 2. And then this one transitions to these two, but this one's duplicate of that one. So that's 2 here and this other one here. And then, well, this one is just an ending one. There's one way of doing that. And CCDK equals 2. That transitions to the CDK equals 1. And it's going to have 2 there. So it has 2 here. Or it could be CDK equals 2, 2. This one, if I remove the first, k reduces by 0. K reduces to 0, so it'd be CDK equals 0. There's 2 things there. And then, or if the first one is non-intended, the second one's non-intended, then it'd be D. First one's non-intended, the second one's non-intended. Then it should be DK equals 1. And then this last one, well, that ends up being, that just ends up being 3 times 2, which is 6. Okay, so I have a 1, CDK equals 1. Alright, can I combine some of these? No. So C or DK equals 0. If that C is intended. C is not intended in this, DK equals 1. And then the second one, if this is just done already, K equals 2, 2. So that ends up being just 2, because 2 times 1 is 2. And then, okay, well this one ends up being K0. So it's going to be 2 times 2 times 2. That ends up being 8. And then this last one, that ends up being just 2 times 1, which is 2. 3 times 2 is 6, so 6 here. So for K, so this ends up being 2 right there. No, it's 2 times 2 is 4. And then D is 1, K is 1, or D, K is 1, so that ends up being the same. So 2 times 2 is 4. No, 1 times 2. It's 2. And then I have an 8, 2, and a 6. So it ends up being 1, 4, 2, 8, 2, 6. And that ends up being a total of 10, 23. Is that the right answer? 23. Oh my god. Alright. That was me just 10 hours fucking Turing machine. Not really thinking about anything. Okay, so was what happened to the case where I had d and k equals 2? So it became ccdk equals 2. ccdk equals 2. Did I just ignore it? So if the first is intended, then it becomes cdk equals 1. Okay, and if I didn't intend it, yeah, I guess I just somehow skipped it. Or was I doing something else? Okay, so this thing breaks down into, if I keep the first A, oh, yeah, I'm doing this calculation wrong. At some point I transitioned from going letters, streaks by streaks to letters by letters. I need to get gone by streak by streak. Fuck. Okay. Okay, so the streak of B. Streak of B, if I do the first B is intended, then ccdk equals 3. No. First B is not intended, so ccdk equals 3. What am I trying to do here? So I'm trying to go by streaks. So AA, 0, 1, or 2 of those A's were intended. If it's 0 A's that were intended, then I go to the things after the A's, keep K the same. 1 A is intended, then I decrement K by 1. Both K's were intended, so I decrement K by 2. Okay. At this stage, I have 1B. So that means either 0 or 1B is intended. So if 0 B's are intended, then I go to the next stage where each of the values, K values, is the same. And there's going to be 1 for each of those ways. So I go to the next one, don't decrement K. Or I could go to the next one and decrement K by 1. I could go to ccd K equals 2. Or ccd K equals 1. Or ccd K equals 0. Okay. This last one, okay, I'm gonna ignore, well, I'll put that to the final. So I have 2 C's, so I can decrement K by 0, 1, 2. If I keep the same, then ccd K equals 3, ccd K equals 2, ccd K equals 1, and no, oops, yeah, get rid of the C's. So d K equals 3. Technically, this first one I can't do anything about, right? This first one is the final answer, because the length of the string is equal to K. Alright, the second one, if if I kept it the same, just removing the c's, dk equals 2. Third one kept the same, removing the c's, dk equals 1. Last one keep the same. Last one I should just say that the answer is going to be something here. That one should be just 3 times 2 is 6. So this one, looks like I'm doing some sort of inner and outer for loop. I guess for each state I decrease by the number of repetitions of the current streak. I think that's too slow. That'd be for every K, for every bucket, for every repetition within the bucket. I mean, maybe that's for every K, for every repetition. I guess there's an upper bound to the number of repetitions within the bucket, that is. Because I don't care about something that repeats more than K times. So I guess the upper bound would be like maybe 2000 cubed. Is that too slow? Oh, that's too slow. God damn it. It's way too many zeros. 8 times 10 to the 9th. It's 9 billion. No, well, 9 billion, 8 billion. What am I saying? 2 times, yeah, 8 times 10 to the 9th, 8 billion. Yeah. Man, I've been not at my finest these past few weeks. Okay. Each bucket, the buckets being the streaks. So if I have streaks for A, B, C, and D, and then if I'm at A goes to B, C, D, incrementing, keeping the same amount, same amount of Ks, 1 less K for 1 less repetition, 2 less Ks for 2 less repetitions. There has to be some better way of reformatting it. Reinterpreting this. 3. One, 3. So A, B, C, D, K equals 3. A, B, C, D, K equals 3. the number of ways you can choose 3 out of those 7, 3 out of those 6. But you can also choose 4 out of those 6, or 5 out of 6, or 6 out of 6. The number of ways you choose. The number of ways you choose 3. It's 3, 4, or 5. K is 0, then it's easy. K is 0, then it's easy. So if you said that the next 3 are all guaranteed, then you can skip to CCD, K equals 0. CCD, K equals 0. But if you set that not all the next 3 are guaranteed, like 2 of the next 3, and technically that means one of the CCD is guaranteed. That's a hard problem. CCD. And go to the next one and say that this A is guaranteed. So it's A, B, C, C, D, 2 guaranteed. Oh. Oh. Yeah. E times 10 to the third. 5 times 10 to the 6. Or 4 times 10 to the 6 if I square it. Man, I just don't think this is fast enough, even if I try to code it. I would be iterating over each bucket, and then iterating over the repetitions within that bucket, and then iterating over little k's, so that transitions from that k to the next bucket's k. It's just too slow. Bucket k frequency. Bucket k frequency. A is not intended. A is intended. Go to the next index. Decrement k. A is not intended. Go to the next index that skips over remaining A's. Keep the k the same. Oh. Oh. Index A. Intended. Go to the next index. Decrement k. There's no intended. Jump indices. Keep k. k matches the length. Get the answer as 1 times the number of ways to get there. Go to that state. K is greater than the length and 0. K equals 0. Then solve using counting principle. Then that's going to go through indices. Indices for every index go through every k. And if you go indices by k, that's 5 times 10 to the 5th times 2 times 10 to the 3rd, which is 10 times 10 to the 9th. 10 times 10 to the 8th, which is 1 times 10 to the 9th, which is a billion operations. I guess that's worst case. I wonder. Yes, the letters don't matter, it's just the size of the buckets and the frequencies. So I can reformulate this to be so this is like 3, 2, 3, 2, K7. If I remove 1 from each of those counts and remove 1 from K for each of those buckets, it would be 2, 1, 2, 1, K plus 3. With 2 A's, a B, 2 C's, a D, but it doesn't really matter. It's the particular letters. And so this ends up being it's 2. Then you can say that none of the 2's matter. None of the 2's were intended. You get 1, 2, 1, K plus 3. Well, one of the 2's was intended, so it's 1, 2, 1. If one of the 2's was intended, can I go by buckets? So can I say 1, 2, 1, K plus 3, K plus 2, and 1, 2, 1, K plus 1. And then, because the next bucket here is going to be, actually, so with that, then from here, either 0 or 1 is necessary. No, this is an ending one. No, it's not ending. There's 4 things remaining. So if the 1 was intended, then it's either 2, 1. Let's say the 1 was intended. So it's 2, 1, K plus 3 still. Or 2, 1, K plus 2. And this one just terminates. This is 1. One way of doing that. And then this one. So if none of them was intended, then it's 1, K equals 2. 0 ways of doing that. Or 1, K equals 1. 1 is way of doing that. Yeah. Or 1, k equals 0. And there's two ways of doing that. And then here's 2, 1, k equals 2. See, none was intended, then it's 2, 1, k equals 2. Yep. And I just solved it up here. 2, 1, k equals 2 is going to be 3 as above. Or if one of them was intended, 2, 1, k equals 1. That one's new. 2, 1, k 1 could be 2, 1, or 1, k equals 1. One way of doing that. Or 1, k equals 0. Or that's it, because I can't take 2 away from k. Am I missing something? See, it feels like I'm missing something big. Oh, this thing. Here, k equals 1. So it could be unintended 1, so that's 2, 1, k equals 1. And this ends up being 3 as above here. Or it could be 2, 1, k equals 0. And this ends up being 3 times 2, which is 6. So 6, 9, 10, 12, 15, 18, 19. I think this should have been 23. So that's fair. Hmm. 6, 2, 8, 2, 4, 1. So there's the 1. Yeah. Do I really want to debug this? Guess I should. 1, 2, 1, k equals 3. So if 2, 1, 2, 1, k equals 3. So I care about either 0, 1, or 2 of those things. So if 0 is intended, then 1, 2, 1, k is 3. One of them was intended, then 1, 2, 1, k equals 2. Both of them were intended, and it's 1, 2, 1, k equals 1. And then there's 1 here. So if that one is not intended, that's 2, 1, k equals 3. Because there's 3 things left, 3 things intended, there's no way of doing that. Or if the one thing was intended, then it's 2, 1, k equals 2. And from there, there's 2 things here, there's k equals 2. So if nothing is intended, then it's 1 thing left, k equals 2. There's no way of doing that. 1 was intended, then 1 thing left, k equals 1. One way of doing that. And if both the things were intended, then there's 1 thing left, k equals 0. 2 ways of doing that. And then 1, 2, 1k equals 2. The 1 was intended as k, and 2, 1k equals 2. Oh, this is a miscount here. Yeah. Okay. 2, 1k equals 2. No, it's not a miscount. It's the same situation here. So this should be in fact 3. Or if one of these things intended, then 2, 1k equals 1. And then if one of these things intended, then the first thing's intended. Or if the first thing isn't intended, the second thing's not intended, then it's one thing left equals 1. Or one thing is intended, one thing is intended, the other thing isn't intended. One thing is intended, the other thing isn't intended. So there's 1 left, and k equals 0. Let's take the roll. And then 1, 2, 1k equals 1. First is not intended, this 2, 1k equals 1. 2, 1k equals 1 is 3. Or if one thing is intended, it's 2, 1k equals 0. That's 3 times 2, which is 6. Same counts. 6, 3, 8, 12, 15, 18, 19. That's not good. It's definitely not good. B, C, D, k equals 2. It's 2, 1, k equals 2. 2, 1, k equals 2 is 3. 2, 1, k equals 1 is 2, 1, k equals 1 is 5. 2, 1, k equals 1, I didn't get 5 here. So it's 2 and 1. 2 and 1, k equals 5. 2 and 1. So if that C is needed, then I'm left with, ooh. Yeah, I don't know if I can break these buckets of this. Two, 1, k equals 1. So if I said the first one is needed, then left with 1, 1, k equals 0, rather than just skipping over the second one. Yeah. I'm just doing it wrong. Or I just can't do it like these buckets. Ah, c'est la vie. C'est la vie. Alright, gave it a go. I'll see if I can. I don't know.